Hi legends, what if I told you I could double the DPS of your Tempest with this build and also these changes? If you don't believe me, well, look at here at my first build and first try that I did on my stream. I was doing in 1 minute a total of 287 million damage. Maybe for you, this is a lot of DPS already, but I was not satisfied because even though it is a free-to-play account, I knew I could do better. So we went through all these lists and we tried to craft and see and test multiple things and multiple options on stream, off stream, and the final result, it was that this build, it is actually now doing 7 million damage per second and also a total of 420 million damage. Nice. Like I'm gonna show you everything because this is actually insane how I managed to almost like double the damage even off my own account. So now moving on into every single detail, let's start obviously here with the skills for this new build. We're gonna use actually a new skill which is the Riptide. Also we're using obviously the Rolling Surf and the Crosswinds, and then also the Flowing Strike to summon more Zephyrs. Wind's Edge or the Wave Edge, like it doesn't matter because we're not gonna go and play with it, but personally I prefer the Wind's Edge. Now the next one, it is gonna be for the instances, and here is where I actually took a lot of time, a lot of testing to optimize to come up with what is the best single target max DPS here for Tempest. So for the first instance that we're using the Seamont's helmet. That it means that whenever your Riptide inflicts loss of control or knockback on the enemy, you're gonna have an increase of damage by 19%. And as you're gonna see, we are using also loss of control on these builds, so we can have not only damage loss of control from these instances, but also from the substats. Then the next one, it is gonna be the new Inferno 6 chest piece that the Riptide now surrounds you and your Zephyrs with swirling tides that continue to damage your nearby enemies. So if you've never seen this, probably whenever you go and you put your own Zephyrs and then you activate the Riptide, it does this effect. It is kind of cool, I kind of like it. Then we have here for the shoulders, we're using the United Defiance. Your Flowing Strike is gonna conjure an additional Zephyr. Zephyrs are super important for you to actually do a tremendous amount of damage. Then we are using the All-in Anchor. This one, the Crosswinds, will also apply a bleed, and this is also gonna be very important for you to increase your DPS. Then Skin Partner, your Rolling Surf empowers you and your Zephyrs, so you have the Water Bananas. Then we're gonna use the new Inferno 6 main hand, which is the Tide Breaker. Your Riptide now is gonna increase the damage done by 7.6% for 3 seconds for each enemy, so it can actually increase up to 22%. And above all, also very important, it also is going to decrease the cooldown of your Riptide whenever awakened. Then here for the offense, we are using the Hurricane Itch, that your Crosswinds is gonna empower you and your Zephyrs, and you're gonna do some nice extra damage and apply the bleed from the pants. And last but not the least, we are using the Sip of the Breath, that the Mystic Touch Orbs increase also your attack speed and movement speed, but here we are mainly focused on the attack speed portion, because I'm going to show you whenever we are doing here the mechanic that if I summon here the Zephyrs that you guys gonna see, and then if I go and I summon them again, they're gonna drop immediately here the orbs on the floor, and you actually don't need to wait for anything. Then we're gonna go here into the set items. Here on the set items, I also tested a lot of them, and in my opinion, like for all my testing, 4 pieces Grace and 4 pieces Vitus pretty much outperform anything that I tried. I know that a lot of people also like to go with the 4 pieces Glooms, but if you are at the end game and mid-max with your account as much as I am, the 4 pieces Glooms crit will not be good for you, because the 4 pieces Glooms will only give you the 22.5% of the remaining crit that you have. So it's not going to be a 22.5% crit that's going to give you, no, it's going to give you 22.5% crit of the 70% of the remaining value of here. And obviously because we are using the Mother's Lament and also the Rolling Surf, a lot of times if you proc the Glooms while you have these 2 things active, it's going to give you like maybe like 5% more crit. So 4 pieces Grace is definitely the way to go for this. And here on the Vitus, the 2 pieces is going to gonna increase the beneficial effect duration by 30% on your buffs, and also it's gonna increase your attack speed and or your zephyrs, which is gonna be also super important for you to do a lot of damage. Now let's go here into the legendary gems, because this is actually a setup that I've been using for optimize the single target damage. And as you can see, there's here a lot of like free-to-play gems, and if you don't have these gems, I actually gonna show you also alternatives. So for the first one, we are using the rank 5 Fervent Fang, that whenever we attack the target for 10 times, is gonna give us a buff of 13.5%. Then we are using the Berserker Eye, 13% more damage plus 2% more crit. Then Rolling Consequence, whenever you attack the target, is give you a buff, increase your critical hit chance, applies burn on the target, and whenever you apply burn on the target, you will also have extra critical hit chance applied on it. Then we are using here the Colossus Engine. It's gonna increase your skill damage, it's gonna also increase your skill range, but mainly here we'll just focus on the skill damage. There are also maybe better alternatives here for the Colossus, but since it is a 4 out of 5 and awakens my slot, it was actually a very good call to put it here. Then we have here Mother's Lament is gonna increase our critical hit chance, also gonna apply some bleed. Then the Pain Clasp, whenever you gonna apply some continuous damage on the target, you'll always have the Pain Clasp active. This is very important because you're going to be running also the Crosswind Pants that apply bleed, and this is going to be always active. Bloodsoaked Shade gives you 13% more damage and also some movement speed. And last but not least, we are also using here the Spectral Glass, which is going to increase our damage and also give us some extra critical hit chance. Have in mind that it only applies for 2 seconds, but that's why I'm actually going here into the substats, and I'm going to explain you something that it was pretty much a breakthrough that I found out here on my account, that I noticed. If you see here my substats, I have 30% crit as base, and then I have 45% critical hit damage. So if I go here into my armor penetration, it's going to increase my critical hit damage and gives me 53%. And if you don't know, there is a cap for the critical hit damage, which is 100%. So if we sum up the 53% with the 45, right now I'm with a 98% critical hit damage. So in this case, I am pretty much done with that. So what I did was actually I started to put in more potency on my build, because I was just like with 11% increased durations, and whenever I change all my legacy of Horadrim, I changed like a few gems into giving more potency, and I bumped it out the potency. It increased from 11% to 25%, which also is gonna affect the duration of my bleeds, but also is super important, is also gonna increase the duration of the Spectral Glass and also the burning from the Rolling Consequence, which allowed me to increase even more my damage. This was actually a very good breakthrough. Obviously here the attack speed, it is going to be very important for you. It's not only for your primary attacks but also for your animations, and that's why we are also using this offhand, because whenever you get those orbs on the floor, Mystic Touch is also going to give you a 28.5% more attack speed, and pretty much you can have this buff almost 100% uptime with your beneficial effect duration. Another good thing to have, it is always the cooldown reduction, so you always have your spells 100% uptime together, of course here with the beneficial effect duration. Try to go and always have, especially the Roiling Surf, the Cross Winds, and everything that you can 100% uptime, because you will really not miss out on this. This build actually doesn't require any Terror Reefs affixes, because I feel like those are actually something that are hard to farm for the casual player, so it's good to have a build that we actually don't need that. So let's talk now about the Paragon. Well, the Paragon here, we are using the Slinger, and I have tried here the Slayer using the primary attacks, but no, it does not perform as well as the Slinger, especially on this build, and that's because of the Zephyrs. So here on the Slinger will also boost the damage of your Zephyrs, and overall the damage is going to be way better. We are using the Insane Dynamism, the Uncanny, Gifted, then Bloodthirst, and also the Superiority to give you those 10 stacks. Very, very good. And for the legendary skills, we are using the Overloaded. That is going to give you that extra primary attack speed, and this attack speed actually stacks with other attack speeds from your build. Very, very good. And now for the Warband Room, this is also a very key part, because you will need to have a very good attacker room so you can pump way more damage. If you don't have these, just gather your warband members and try to go and grind a few of these, because they will actually make a huge difference. I'm gonna try to explain. The war phase will gonna increase the critical hit chance by 3%. Here, the coward's rage will gonna increase your damage by 3% whenever the enemies are in need 3 yards. So this one is actually doesn't apply all the time, but since you're a Tempest, you can actually be still a bit in range. Then we have the Reforges. This one is one of the best ones. Increases all your damage by 6%, and you take 3% more damage, but there's not a problem. And also we have here the Manifest Carnage, that whenever your crit hit chance it is above 70%, is gonna give you an extra 10% critical hit damage. In my case, I still don't have above 70%, but also I'm pretty capped when it comes to the critical hit damage, so I kind of don't need it. And so these remnants are very powerful because you add all of these together with a 3.5% damage done increase just by selecting this room. It is very nice and you cannot really go wrong with it. So now moving on into the familiar is going to be also a big part of your damage, especially when you're talking about these single targets, because we have here the lingering wounds. It is a skill on your pet that you can have from the rare, the gold, or the legendary one. As I have now, I'm using a ash sweeper with it. It doesn't really matter what you have as long as you are applying this. And whenever your pet attacks, it needs to be a pet that attacks. It cannot be a cat, because the cat only gives you the shield and the boss needs to attack to apply. No, you want something that attacks. Ash sweeper, branch Holland, even the skitter. All of these guys are very good. So what happens is, like, when my pet's gonna attack every 20 seconds, this is gonna apply this debuff that is gonna increase my damage up to 30%. There are ways to actually increase these even higher to above like 38%, 39% if you have the insight until 200, but only certain pets, like for example the Brent Allen, can actually have the insight up to 200. So have in mind the pet that you're gonna pick to go and do this. So I will not put a lot of stack when it comes to the pet, but definitely it's gonna help you to bump that damage very easily. Now moving on here into the runes, and I'm gonna try to explain you something very key about the runes and why you actually need like certain runes for this build, because it's gonna help you a lot. And the ones that I'm talking about, it is here the Fa, which is the gold rune for your main hand, which is gonna apply a chill effect, which is gonna trigger all this loss of control damage that we are adding here on this build. So whenever you put the gold rune or you put the orange rune, the Lev, this is gonna give you 12% more chance to apply a reduction of attack speed and movement speed on the target, and whenever the target is gonna be slow, they also gonna have increased damage. Have in mind that damage to loss of control actually does not proc when it comes to the raid bosses, but it procs with any other bosses. So that's why the priority should always be to go and first cap your critical hit damage, your attack speed, and then later on you actually want to go and have some damage to loss of control, because this skill will only be applied in the normal mobs, the elite mobs, but not on the raid boss. So this is very important for you to have in mind, so pay attention to this, because this actually can be very meaningful for your account. Now talking here about the curse sets, these ones, oh boy, I actually had to go and test a bunch of them. I tested the Vex, I tested the test, I tested the trophy, and finally we actually tested the 6 pieces tortured, and this was the one that actually gave me the biggest amount of damage, because it will actually proc every 9 seconds. And in this sense, it actually outperformed the tested, because we are using the flowing strike. The flowing strike, it is a dash, so most of the times that you use the flowing strike, especially on the dummy, you're gonna be able to leave this dash here on the floor, and whenever the target is on top of this, not only is gonna get mobilized, but it's mainly for the extra damage that we want output. And for the 2 pieces, we are using the 2 pieces lash, that whenever you're gonna apply a primary attack, it's gonna have these tentacles, it's gonna clap the enemy, and also it's gonna apply some damage over time, which is pretty good. Then when it comes to the charm, I'm gonna be honest, I'm a lazy ass guy that I don't have my charms. They are very costly, and to be honest, I played so many classes that I don't have anything really focused in one class, but I'm gonna explain you which ones you actually should be the skills that you should have on your farm, and that's all the skills that we are using for this build. So you always want to have the Rolling Surf, because Rolling Surf is gonna be a big part of your damage. Crosswinds, the Riptide, also Flowing Strike, maybe Wind's Edge you actually don't need on this one because you're not even gonna use it. So have in mind that especially the Rolling Surf, if you have on your charm, is actually going to be extremely good. Now moving on here into the Reforge sets, and I'm going to show you some very powerful Reforge sets that I mainly use for all my classes. I have a very universal Reforge PvE setup that is gonna be very good for everything. So we are using damage to enemies that suffer loss of control. We are using damage to demons, and just this damage to demons you can increase to up to 6% if you get the max roll. Then we are having the attack speed, and whenever we have these three, he actually is gonna trigger the bonus family attribute vengeance, that your primary attack has a 2% chance of increasing all your damage by 100% in 1 second, and in this game 1 second is actually a lot. Then we are using obviously the duration to beneficial effect durations to increase the buffs that we get from the skills, but also from our legendary gems. And last but not least, we are using the critical hit damage increase. So I use all of these for all my Reforge slots, so go with it. You cannot really go wrong with these ones. Then we are using here for the normal gems. Obviously, we are always trying to go with the most optimal ones, and it is, if you can, try to have for the red socket Tourmaline, which is going to increase your damage. Try to go with the Saturine for the yellow sockets, because it's going to increase your potency. Increase your potency is going to increase the bleeds, also going to increase the spectral glass and every harmful effect on the target. And also obviously you want to go with the blue ones with the Sapphire, which is going to increase your armor penetration. Try to go with every slot that you have with these colors with these exact normal gems, and you can't really go wrong. Another thing that sometimes people forget, it is about the Helliquary. People just go and they just put like the highest combat rating, but I'm gonna show you what I do. And in general, you actually want to go and have everything with 42 and willpower, so it bumps your secondaries, but also have in mind, because you actually gonna do sometimes challenge rifts, or you want to do the gauntlet, or you want to do like heavy raids that you don't have the combat rating. So what I do is I optimize, and I have always two with me. I have the mid-max one with the 42 and willpower that I keep most of the times, but I also keep with me the one with the highest combat rating. So the highest combat rating sometimes is going to be more beneficial to you. So have these two slots, because in general they can come up handy. In the same way, I also apply the same logic to gear, to green set items, because you always want to have the min-max gear, and also you want to have the high combat rating gear for certain specific types of challenge. Then last but not the least, we have the legacy of Horadrim, and I put this one at the last one because I want to show you that actually might be surprising for you guys the way that I actually have. So as you guys can see here, I am maxing my potency. Not the armor penetration, no, I'm actually maxing my potency, because as I explained to you, and this will be different for every single account, for me, I already have enough armor penetration that makes my account pretty much capped when it comes to the critical hit damage, so having more armor pen will actually take me above the critical hit damage cap. So in that sense, I can reduce my armor penetration and focus on the potency, so I'm gonna increase the duration of my harmful effects. So I go first with the black one for the potency, then I go with this blue one for potency and resistance, then I select here for the armor. I take these three from the left, then the leftovers I apply obviously here on the red for the armor pen, on the purple for the armor penetration, and then on this one for the resistance. This is what you actually have to put, and the leftovers you can actually even put here. So I just realized I actually forgot to put here, but either way, have in mind that I have some leftovers that I should have put it here. Then you want to put even the third leftover, so see this as a layer. The order should always be black, blue, and yellow, then the leftovers red, purple, and this orange, And then the other ones, you go with these ones that's only gonna give you damage and life. Damage and life is not like really that necessary, but well, now it's time to actually go and do some damage. I'm gonna show you how this build works and how the things that you actually need to have in mind. The first thing, it is gonna be the stance, okay? You wanna start every boss on the defensive stance because then you actually gonna switch right in the engage to the aggressive stance or the command stance that is gonna give you and your summons 20% attack speed, and then the passive is gonna be 10 attack speed. This is very, very powerful for you to do. Then what do you want to do? You actually want to buff up. So the way you want to actually engage is gonna be like you're gonna do flowing strike. So you summon your Zephyrs, and then you're pretty much gonna turn on all these buffs and change the stance at the same time. And so I'm gonna now exemplify how you actually want to go. You want to go with a flowing strike, and then you pretty much want to activate all your buffs, and also you want to put your stance. So you're gonna go like this, flowing strike, buffs, and you switch the stance, and you can see there was a burst of like 19 million, very high burst, very, very good over there. And then you just always want to actually go and use your flowing strike every time that you have, so you will always go and respawn new Zephyrs. So every time that you have new Zephyrs, the old ones will actually drop these mystical orbs, which is gonna increase your attack speed, and that's why this build actually becomes like extremely powerful, especially for single target, because you always have your Zephyrs with you. You also gonna have this attack speed coming into place, and we are also using the flowing strike on the target, so we actually always are putting this torment, like the bleed or the flames right below the boss. So like this, we are actually, are we gonna actually break here the record of this build? Wow, dude, are we actually gonna do that? Are we actually? Oh my god, we actually almost, I think we almost broke the record. I am pretty sure we actually have to go and check it out. Go whenever it was here at 1 minute. But I mean, as you see, more than 400 million damage on a free-to-play Tempest, man. Like, I've been playing this game for 1 year and 1 month. Every day, I also, on my stream, I showed all the, you know, everyone was asking for the transactions. They were asking me to go here on the shop and show all the bundles, because they cannot believe that how can you actually do, you know, with a free-to-play account, how can you do like so much damage? And it's like it's just need to really understand multipliers, how the game works, the mechanics behind it, and everything. And believe me, if I can do, you also can do. And well, I hope you guys enjoyed the build. Also, if you guys want, like in the comments, stripe cheese in the comments, so because it actually really helps. Also, if you guys want to join the membership, also helps to support the channel. I also do one-on-one, you know, coaching sessions to try to help people to level up their account. So if you guys are interested in that, don't forget to join the membership. And with this, thank you for watching, and I catch you guys on the live stream. Peace.